Welcome to Archaic Homo sapiens for the Rise of Civilization. Now, you know them as Neanderthals, but their formal name is Archaic Homo sapiens. Technically, only the specimens found in the Neander Valley of Germany are Neanderthals, but for our purposes, and everybody else's, we'll call them Neanderthals. So, what is Neanderthals' claim to fame? What do we see with them that we never saw before? First signs of empathy, burial of the dead, cannibalism. Kind of interesting. So who were they? We find them in Europe, the Middle East at the height of the Ice Age. Short and stocky, large nose, barrel chest, long, low, thick skull, but with large cranial capacity, meaning brain content, and a heavy brow ridge. They really have gotten a bad rap over the years. So there's the range of sites. And a majority of the Neanderthals that we find are found in caves. Here are some recreations of what we think they might have been like. Again, here's some of the physique. So you have on the left Neanderthals versus modern humans. Very heavy boned. Some of the cranial features. Don't really have to worry about this, but just remember that that's where they get the bad rap as being brutish and barbaric because of the heavy brow ridge. Here's another picture of it. So here are some of the specimens that they actually found. This one's dated to 50,000 years ago. Found in France. Here's another reconstruction. Okay, depending on who you read, slightly larger brain size than humans. Kind of interesting. So because of the brain size, we know that they had an enormous need for protein. So you might want to look at the stuff that I posted online for you to read. For a long time, people thought that even though we found projectile points for them, that they didn't really put them on spears. But more and more research has shown that they probably had to get in really close to the animals, these big animals. And by looking at the injury patterns, what they found is their injuries were similar to those of rodeo riders who get bucked off of the bulls or the broncs. And so it makes us think that they actually did put the projectile points on the spears and got in really close to these animals. So the toolkit, what you just need to remember is Mousterian. Don't worry about anything else. And so mostly stone, but much more varied. With the Homo erectus, don't forget, we just had that hand axe, the Acheulean hand axe. Here's some stuff that they found. You could look at this. Did they have symbolism? That's really hard to tell archaeologically. Again, this is where you get into observation versus inference. Use of pigments, beads. Did they make little beads, or are these just shells that have broken? What we can tell from the archaeological remains is from about 70,000 years to 40,000 years before present in Europe. Again, small groups. It is thought that perhaps because of the hunting they had to do, they might have had some vocal capabilities, because they would have had to communicate with one another, but we're not sure as a species when we actually had the physical capability to speak like I'm speaking to you now. Again, they get a bad rap. They were highly intelligent. Now be careful when you see burying the dead, because there's burying the dead to get rid of a stinking, decomposing corpse, and there's burying the dead with ritual intent, where they say, okay, you're moving on to the next life, which infers all kinds of intelligence. The other thing is when it says some degree of altruism, what they're saying is, and you're going to see this, we see individuals or individual specimens that had a lot of bone trauma. And the only way they could have survived for the wounds to heal would be if somebody took care of them. They would not have survived on their own. So by looking at injury patterns and wounds that have healed, severe wounds that have healed, we know that they took care of one another to some degree. Okay, what evidence is there of burial and ritual? Well, I put some readings on you or for you on Blackboard. That's open to speculation. Some of them are more believable than others. The other thing is, and I did put a reading on Blackboard for you about the clan of the cave bear. There was a cave in Switzerland, and this is actually a picture of a chest that they had found made in a cave with all kinds of cave bear skulls. So that's where the book Clan of the Cave Bear came from, in terms of basing it on an actual archaeological find. So again, you could look at your article about Neanderthals. How can we tell that they cared for the injured? Again, we find all these specimens with severe trauma. Here's Shenandoah 1. He has an eye socket that was crushed, and he would have been blinded in that eye. And he lived to be 40 to 50 years old. Here is an individual whose left arm was amputated above the elbow, and look at how withered away it is. This individual survived. The old man of La Chapelle, about 50,000 years old, meaning not that he lived that long, obviously. He had arthritis in his neck. He had a deformed left hip, a crushed toe, a broken ridge, a damaged patella, meaning the knee bone. He survived, so he must have been taken care of by someone. And there is the actual specimen. Needed dental help as well. There's what, when we do our thing on human osteology, that's what arthritis looks like in bones. So where do modern humans fit in? This gets very interesting because remember your laws of stratigraphy. If you find two specimens in the same stratigraphic layer, you can assume that they existed around the same time period. Well, guess what? We find Neanderthals and modern humans in the same stratigraphic layer, so we know that they coexisted. What happened to them? There's a couple of theories. Here, it gives you one thing. Neanderthal people were believed to have died out about 35,000 years ago. Two theories. One is that modern humans mated with them. Genetically, they were superior, more dominant, and Neanderthals died out. The other one is that we killed them off. Here's a cave in Gibraltar where specimens were found. And guess what? We find evidence of cannibalism. We'll talk about this more throughout the class, but how can you tell cannibalism? Might want to remember this. What you find is evidence on human bones of cutting, chopping, bones being broken open for marrow. On human bones, not animal bones. So there is some evidence that cannibalism was practiced during this time period. So again, what happened to the Neanderthals? Did Neanderthals and moderns do it and then just died out? So we still have a lot to learn about the Neanderthals, but it'd be great if you do your readings and look at the videos that I posted.